Good afternoon, everyone. People are entering our room. Please keep joining us. Thanks very much for being here with us in this afternoon. We know how teachers are so busy. Finding the time to be here with us is wonderful, looking for professional development. Yes, Luciana has started in our chat. Hello, Luciana. Hello, Luis Antonio. Great. Tell us where you are joining from. I see Minas Gerais, Betim, Pompeia, São Paulo, Franca, wonderful, Goiânia, Bahia. People from all over Brazil. We are so happy to see you. Thanks very much for joining. So while people are joining, let me do a little introduction. Welcome to today's webinar, that in fact, this is our webinar number 1 of a series. Before I tell you more about our webinar series, let me introduce myself. I'm Katia Valli, Schools and Exams Marketing Manager, and I'm talking to you from our office, Cambridge Brazil's office here in São Paulo. The idea behind these webinars is to contribute with your professional development. This week, we are focusing on primary, teaching very young learners and young learners. So let's take a look at what we have been preparing for you. Today, we have Claire with the theme of Learning to Learn for Little Kids. Tomorrow, we have How Exploring Nature Benefits Pre-Primary Learners with Laura Sigsworth. And on Friday, we have Anne Robinson with the theme of Developing Positive Attitudes. We are going to paste here. If you don't follow us yet on social media, please do so, because there you can also get our updates. And now a little bit of housekeeping for our session. If you have questions to our speakers, send them in the Q&A tool, not in the chat box, please, right? So that we can organize them better. By the end of this presentation, in the chat box, we will send you a feedback form, a link to a feedback form. And at the end of this feedback form, you will find a link to a certificate. Also, we will be recording this webinar, and the recording will be uploaded on Cambridge Brazil YouTube channel very soon. And now let's welcome today's speaker, Claire Ross. Hello, Claire.
Hello, Katia. Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks very much for accepting our invitation for this webinar. Claire has over 20 years international experience in ELT. She collaborates with Cambridge and other institutions such as the British Council and Ministries of Education. Without further ado, I hand over to you, Claire. Have a good presentation.
Thank you so much, Katia. I'm delighted to be with you all today, and thank you for all your greetings in the chat. Please keep the chat open as we go, because I'll be asking you for your suggestions, your ideas. There'll be a few tasks as we go along as well, because I think we learn better when we're learning together. So please don't worry about right answers. There aren't any, but do get involved. And I'm joining you today from Cyprus, where it is 9 o'clock at night. So good evening from me. All right, so let's get started. What are we going to be looking at this afternoon? Oh, and I'm just checking I can move. Yes, I can move my slides. There we go. All right, so we're looking at strategies and activities to help, as Katia said, our very young learners, pre-primary and primary, to learn how to learn. So we'll be looking at that in 3 parts: developing skills and strategies for learning, how to help even the little ones to start to take control of their own learning, and how they can begin to learn how to reflect on and evaluate learning. So before we start, I have some suggested learning strategies for you. We're here to learn, so I want to make sure you make the most out of today. So here are my suggestions. You don't have to do this, but I would suggest as we go through the webinar, you take part and think about what you already do with your students and notice if what we're talking about is similar or different. Maybe you want to take notes. Maybe you want to take some screenshots, because on some of the slides, I'll be showing activity instructions taken from Teacher's Book. So there'll be quite a lot of text on those slides. You might want to screenshot it. And of course, if you've got any questions, as Katia said, pop those in the Q&A box and we'll try to get to them later. And then at the end of the session, and I'll remind you of this later on as well, I would like you to reflect on what we've talked about, because we'll be going through lots of different ideas and information. And maybe after the session, you might try something, I don't know. And then if you do that, obviously, it's important to reflect again, isn't it? And think about, is this working for my learners? Is it working for me? Okay, hope that sounds all right. So I wanted to start today by talking about mindsets a little bit. And I think you'll probably talk more about this in a session that you have later this week with Anne Robinson when she's talking about developing positive attitudes. Has anyone heard of Carol Dweck? You can see a picture of her on the screen here. Have you heard about her work on mindsets? Just let me know in the chat, give me a yes or a no or a not sure. She's a professor of psychology at Stanford University. Thank you, Giovanna, you have. And she has done a lot of work on fixed mindsets and growth mindset. Maybe that's something you've heard of before. Yeah, I agree, she is amazing. And I'm going to recommend her book as well. I just want to summarize some of her key ideas because they really relate to what we're talking about today. So she talks about different kinds of mindset. And a mindset is what we believe about ourselves, what our students believe about themselves and what they're capable of. And she says people, children, ourselves can have either a fixed mindset. So this is the idea that, you know, you're a natural, you're born with something, our intelligence is somehow fixed. And that can have some limitations for learning. It can mean that students are afraid of making mistakes, they're afraid of failing. That can lead to them avoiding risk. It means that they just want to look smart all the time. They want to avoid looking silly or looking stupid, if you like. So on the other hand, she talks about the importance of a growth mindset. And with this, I think as teachers, it's important for us to believe that our children, our students are able to improve and develop. And we want our children to believe that as well, that they are capable of progressing with hard work, with effort. And this leads to positive psychological effects. It means we have children and students who enjoy challenge, who can overcome problems. They can try again. If it's not working out, never mind. It's all about making mistakes and learning from them. And I just want to give a little quote from her, which I really like. Carol says, in a growth mindset, students understand that their talents and abilities can be developed through effort, good teaching, and persistence. They don't necessarily think everyone's the same or anyone can be Einstein, but they do believe everyone can get smarter if they work at it. So how about you? What do you think about that? Do you agree with that? I know Giovanna here is a huge fan. Well, how does this relate to the very youngest of students? Oh, yeah, I can see lots of people saying this. I agree. We can help the little ones to develop a growth mindset. And this is where it begins, isn't it? Where children start to have beliefs about the type of person they are and what they're capable of. How can we do it? Well, first of all, Carol says we need to give process praise. So this is about focusing on what children are doing, on the action, on the behavior, and on their work, rather than only praising them as a person or praising their intelligence. So it's not wrong to say you're smart, you're clever, but children benefit from learning about what it is that they're doing that is smart or clever, right? And I put some examples on the screen there. And we know that children benefit from this positive reinforcement. They learn about behavior that it's good to replicate, right, from our attitude as teachers. And the second thing on this is that Carol says is about managing our own reactions to failure, which I think is a really interesting thing to think about. And you know, even if a child does something unexpected or we ask a question and they give another reply and maybe it's not what we were thinking, we respond, don't we, with our faces, with a hesitation. And it's just being, I think, mindful of that, because children will notice and they will know what we're being positive about. And if we're only positive about, you know, the right answers and the successes, they'll aim only for that, won't they, and limit risk taking. So I know this is no news to very young learner teachers like yourselves and lower primary, but I think it's a nice reminder about the power of praising the process. So please bear this in mind as we go through today. Remember this growth mindset. And I just want to give one example and to let you know that when I'm showing some boxes on the screen, which are from a teacher's book, they're from a Cambridge title called Pippa and Pop. And I know that some of you are using this, but if you're not using it, then don't worry. You can use the activities too. Just take a screenshot of it or make a note of where it is so you can look back in this recording later and find it. Okay, so here's an activity that I liked that I think really does work towards this can-do attitude, this growth mindset. And I'll just summarize what happens. So it's a learning through play activity. You have 3 hoops or 3 things that children are going to try to throw a beanbag or something else into. So there's the first one is close to them, and then there's one a bit further and one a bit further than that. And children need to practice throwing to try and get it into the one that's closest to them. And it's important as they're doing this, you can imagine what's happening in the classroom, and sometimes it's going out and sometimes it's too far and sometimes it's too close, but it doesn't matter. We're giving children some hints and encouragement so that they try again, and when they've got it in the closest one, they can move on to the next hoop. So I really like this as an example of focusing on the progress, focusing on learning and moving forward, rather than the ability, can you do it or not? Okay, so today we're talking about learning to learn skills, and I think mindset really underpins that, because we need children to have a growth mindset, a positive attitude, so they can develop into successful learners. And what I'm showing you on the screen is just so you know where some of the terms in this presentation come from. You can find learning to learn here on the right hand side, and it's one of the life competencies that Cambridge has identified that are important for children and young people, and then later on adults, to develop and to be successful in their school, in their study, and later on in work and life as well. So learning to learn is broken down into 3 parts. Here you go. So first of all, developing skills and strategies for learning, then taking control of your own learning, and reflecting on and evaluating own learning. And you can see here, it's not only about learning English, is it? So these really help children and young people across the curriculum and throughout their school and their work lives as well. So the way I've structured this is that we're going to look at each part, each section, each of these 3 sections in turn, and I will either explain or demonstrate or show you an activity or several activities that go with that, and then we'll link it back to these learning how to learn skills. And just a little reminder to have this growth mindset in your mind as we go through. So let's start off with number 1. Okay, so developing skills and strategies for learning. And I wanted to start by thinking about the classroom routines we have. I think we can agree they're really essential for helping children to learn how to learn. They help to get children ready to learn at the start of the school day, at the start of class. They can become something that's familiar. They're a safe aspect of the classroom. Children know what to expect, and that means they can look forward to their favourite things, like the song that you start the class with, for example. And they also mean that children can notice and really enjoy the new things as well. So I'd like to learn from you about the routines that you have in your classrooms. I'd love you to share in the chat if you have classroom routines. What do you do in every class? Do you have things that you do at the beginning of class? Do you have things that you do at the end? Do you have special things you say or songs you sing? Please let me know in the chat, even just a very short couple of words. All right, thank you. So Margaret Giovanna here, a hello song, welcoming songs, really nice. We've got circle time, lots of songs, asking about their days, a greeting. Someone uses a goodbye song, really nice. Gonzalo, on your marks, I like it. And talking about their feelings, lovely Mariana, so some social emotional learning there as well. Games, fantastic. Please keep typing and please keep your eye on the chat as well for ideas from others. I'm going to show you a few on the screen and see if you do this or not. Oh, freeze dance, says Renata. I'd love to know more about that. Is that music and the children dance and then you stop and they have to freeze? Sounds like a lot of fun. So as I bring these up on the screen, just have a think. Do you do this? I wonder how many you've mentioned already. Anyone use visual routine cards for the class? So showing what you're going to be doing in class today. Maybe a card for listening, a card for a story, so children can see what's coming up in class. Do you have letter or number of the day or word of the day, for example, or even that goes for the whole week sometimes? What about signals to get children's attention? Now, I would love to see these, by the way. What signals do you have for getting children's attention? I have some favourites. 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. 1, 2, eyes on you. Also sometimes clapping, or I know teachers that just raise their hand until all the children in the class look at them and are quiet. Does that work for you? Let us know in the chat. Maybe you have different activities that take place in different parts of your classroom. So that's a signal, isn't it? And children know when we move over here, we're going to do some craft activity, for example. And certainly lots of you have said songs and chants. Someone also mentioned a helper for the day. So yeah, I was thinking that too, Mariana. So who's going to be, give out some things today? Who's going to be giving out the pencils or, wiping the board, for example? Lots of tasks for children to be involved in. Maybe you have a routine for story time, or a tidying up routine that children learn throughout the year and they know what to do. And then someone else mentioned the goodbye song. So, oh, and lining up to say goodbye as well as they leave the classroom. So I wanted to focus on number 6 here, a classroom helper. Aha! And Thamara here has guessed exactly what I'm going to say. So I want to think about classroom puppets who can be our helpers. So who uses puppets with class? Do you have a class mascot? Here I've got Pippa. So some of you might be using her. So who has a class puppet? Again, let's see in the chat. What do you use them for? So Thamara uses them for story time. That's great. So I wonder, Thamara, if the puppet tells the story or if you have a conversation with the puppet about the story. How about the rest of you? What do you do? And how do you get them involved in your routine? Oh, right, you've got Polly the parrot, Luciana from Super Safari. Really nice. Giovanna's got one. So what do you use your mascot for? I'd love to hear. Oh, very nice. Oh, right, Mrs. Happy and Mrs. Sad. Really nice. So again, some lovely social-emotional learning there. All right, well, let's talk about Dora the Explorer as well. Brilliant. Thank you, everyone, for if you see my eyes moving across the screen, it's because I'm having a look at the chat and making sure everyone's involved there. Brilliant. So a teddy bear called Brownie is involved. All right, so what's good about these puppets then for younger learners? How does it help them to learn how to learn? Let's think about it. Well, this could be part of your classroom routine. It could be your helper. It adds in a little bit of fun. It can help some of the shy children sometimes. Have you found this? That sometimes they're happy to talk to the puppet in circle time rather than feeling that having to talk to the rest of the children. Also, maybe it gives them some responsibility. If they're responsible for having the puppet near them, they have to make sure the puppet stays on the table and doesn't fall on the floor. Maybe you let children take the puppet home sometimes as a reward. I've also heard that, and then the puppet can come back and talk about what they did last night and share their adventures. Here's an activity again, using a puppet. So hide and seek, which is really fun. So hide the puppet. Children have to close their eyes as you do that, and then they have to find around the classroom. And this is really nice for learning this activity, and it's the same one you can repeat again and again, and they say, oh, there you are, when they find Pippa, and maybe they can hide Pippa next time as well. Also, you can use this for practicing numbers, so you count to 10 while they're looking. They only have 10 seconds. Maybe your puppet only comes out at a special time, so it's a good behavior puppet, so it only when everyone is sitting down. I won't say sitting still, or maybe you sing a special song for them to come out. Maybe the puppet is part of your morning routine, or they say goodbye to the children. And how does this link to learning to learn? Well, this is all about classroom routines. It's helping children to review learning. It's helping them to learn through play. All right, and Leanne is they're saying they feel like they have a friend. Really nice. And when the puppet speaks, when they have the puppet, they must speak in English. That's a nice one. Sometimes the puppet only understands English. That's another one. Or sometimes the puppet can help and translate a little bit. That can be helpful too. All right, so let's talk a little bit about learning through play. Really important. You know about this. So different types of play that children at this age need. They need guided play. They need some direction from you, some guidance, supporting children with ideas, giving them lots of positive reinforcement. And then, of course, the freer child-led play, those times in the class where they can choose what to do, what toys to play with, or what games to play. And isn't it the case when they're really involved in something, they're the best conditions for learning? I've heard it said that play is children's work, and when children come back from school, they're so tired because they've been hard at work all day. And I think that's a great sign of doing some really productive playing. And how does it link to learning to learn? Well, and again, every time I show this on the screen is with learning to learn, I'm taking this from the framework so you can see how it's all linked in. So play is all about learning to interact with other children. That's important in the classroom. It's about following rules and learning to express yourself too. So let's have a look at some learning games. Here's the first one. So here's a way to review vocabulary. So let's say you've been looking at 3 different topics recently with your kids. What do you think these topics were? I've chosen a picture to represent each one. So what could the topics be, do you think? Any ideas? Oh gosh, someone's written all 3. Amazing. You're absolutely right. Yeah, both of you. Thank you. Toys and family and animals. Thank you, Samara and Luciana. Yes, that's it. Oh, it could be pets too. That's a good idea. Yeah, thank you. So you're going to show a picture like I have to the children. Make sure they realize the topic. Give a couple of examples for each one. And then I'm going to give you a word and you tell me which topic it goes with. I know this is very easy, but just to demonstrate the activity. So you can type 1, 2, or 3 in the chat if you like. All right, so the first word is daddy. So which topic is this? Right, that's it, people. Number 2, there you go. Next word, ready? Ball. Ball. That's it. Number 1. Okay, you've got the idea. All right, now I've done it with typing because we're in a big webinar and there's lots of us and we're in different places, but in your classroom, maybe you could have these pictures around the class and maybe children could either point to the topic if they recognize the word and they make the connection to the topic, they can point to that topic card, or maybe they can move to it. Let's bring some movement into the classroom and get them to move to that part of the classroom. Lots of fun. And here's the instructions from this. So again, if you haven't done this before, you want to remember it, take a screenshot so you can have a look at those for later. And here are the links towards learning to learn as well. So comprehension, strategies, and helping children to organize and retrieve information. I've got another one. Okay, maybe this is a bit more challenging, I don't know. So it's another way to help children to make links and connections. I made it a bit more challenging for you this time, I hope. So here are some words that children have been learning recently. And your task is to put them into 3 groups. So can you choose 3 groups? And every one of these cards, these pictures, would go into one of the groups. What would those 3 groups be? So thinking of categories. Love to hear your ideas on this. What do you think? What would your 3 groups be? So I have made it a little bit challenging, I think. Okay, so we've got an animals. Yeah, I can see what would go in that one. And what would the other be? What would the others be, Priscilla? Okay, so we've got 3 here, toys, nature, and family. Nice. Toys, mammals, and people. Okay. And Priscilla, you've got animals, family, and what's the other one? Great. Okay, good. I'm glad I've got you thinking. So I've made it a bit more difficult for you. Obviously, you can keep this simpler. Maybe use 2 groups or ask children to find 2 pictures that are connected somehow. There's lots of ways they could do this, and you'll find they are so imaginative. So you might get children saying the apple and the bear, or pointing at those because they're both red. Maybe they can notice the circular shape. So we've got the ball and then the rabbit, or even they can decide the things they like and the things they don't like. Lots of different ways to do this. Yeah, colours is a nice one, Caroline. Yes, absolutely. All right, our next learning through play activity. I wish we were in a room and I could demonstrate this in front of you. It's really fun. So you need to ask a small group of children to come to the front of the class, and they stand in front of you in a row, and they are going to be the keys on your piano. And how you play your piano is by holding your hand over the head of one of the children, or touching their head, if that's okay in your classroom. I know that's sometimes that's okay, sometimes it isn't. And when you do that, the child has to say the word that we're practicing today. So for example, you might be practicing and reviewing numbers, and we're practicing the number 2. So when you put your hand over the child in the middle, he says 2, and maybe the longer you leave your hand there, the longer they have to say this word. So 2, and then you go to another child, 2, and maybe you can do more than one child at the same time. So 2 children have to say 2 at the same time. You can see how this works. Maybe you can get children saying it very high and children saying it very low. And maybe you can get different children saying different words. So you can get them thinking of their own words, maybe on the topic of animals, and everybody chooses an animal. And when you play that child, when you hold your hand over their head, they say their word. So lots of fun. I'm glad you like that one, Katia. There you go. How does it link to learning to learn? That's all about playing with new language. I think you might remember the instructions for that one, so I haven't shared those. Okay, the next one is also can be used to review vocabulary, and this is a memory game, and I'm sure you've played some version of this one. I'll explain how this works. So children stand in a circle, and you've got flashcards with pictures of the words that you want to review in the middle, face up, so children can see the pictures, and maybe you can have a little review then of what the words are before you start playing the game. Okay, so they know what's there. Then get them to close their eyes and turn around, because we know that children cannot just close their eyes. There are always holes to look through. When they've turned their backs to the center, so they're all, now that the cards are behind them, you need to turn them face down. Then they turn around again, and now you say, okay, nominate a child. Where is blue? Or hands up, who knows where blue is? Okay, right, your turn, show me, try. They turn it over, and if it's blue, well done. And if it's not, okay, we turn that card back over and they go back to the edge of the circle. So maybe you've played it exactly like that, or maybe it's a version of a game that you've played before. Again, let me know in the chat if you like that one. And I've got instructions for that one coming up. So if you want to remember it, please take a screenshot. And again, the link to Learning to Learn here is about following instructions, isn't it? It's learning that we can't all go and get the cards at the same time. We need to stand here, we need to listen, we need to know the rules of the game. All right, so we've looked at some guided play, and I know you must have a lot more ideas of your own. I wanted to just give one example of free play and how we can use this to help children to manage their own learning environment. So it's also a way to review vocabulary, and here it's a dressing up game. So let's imagine you've been learning about the concept of age and how old and young people do different things and look different perhaps. And how do children practice this? Well, they go to the dressing up box and they can choose. They can either be somebody very old, or perhaps they can be a baby, and they go to the dressing up box and they choose something, and then they have to act like that person. And you can reinforce that as they're doing and playing together by saying, oh, hello, grandma. Oh, yes, you're very old, aren't you? And oh, we have a little baby, and are you hungry? Really fun. So totally free play, but also a good way to reinforce some concepts as well. All right, and again, as we're going, let me know in the chat if you think you have a question about that, or you've done this, or you have another idea. Please don't be shy, and do type in there. So we've talked about learning through play because it's so important at this age. And just to summarize this bit a little bit, we want to use play to help children to revise and expand their vocabulary, don't we? So we want to use as much English as we can until it becomes a part of children's play and they start to repeat some of the phrases that we're using. We want to give choices as much as possible. So choosing who is the leader, taking turns, maybe adapting the game as well. We want to encourage children to take part and suggest their own ideas sometimes. And I wonder if you do this, and again, this depends on the age a little bit you're teaching, but playing together as a class sometimes, and then once children have the idea, they can play together a game or an activity in a smaller group and change it the way they like to. And Giovanna's got a lovely idea here, drawing to review the vocab, really nice. So they draw things to review what they've learned. I love it. And my last tip here is talking to parents and making sure parents know how this is helping their children and how the games we're doing in class are their learning games and how it's helping children to expand and learn English as well. So any other tips you would like to share, or your favourite tip here about learning through play, I would love to hear it. All right, let's talk a little bit about bookwork as well. So we're not just only talking about play. And some of you I know are already using course books for your young learners. I can see someone mentioned Super Safari and Pippa and Pop and maybe some others. And I just wanted to give this example here of the process that children learn. Kids Box, Priscilla, there you go. So once they get familiar with the book, they start to recognize the process, don't they? They start to know, okay, I know now that I listen and point. And then after that, I put the sticker. So I know I want to put the sticker now, but I have to do that after we've done the listening and pointing. So we're going from receptive to productive activities, from listening to speaking. So this modeling and repeating. And again, it's a really good opportunity, isn't it, to praise the process, part of this growth mindset. So great sticking, good listening. And this is from a lower level, if you like, of the book. And here I've got two different levels as well, just to show some of the sequenced instructions. So we've got listen, colour and sing. So that's a song about food likes and dislikes. Maybe some of you recognise that one. And then we also have listen and draw and sing. So they're listening, and here they're drawing on the person's hair, which sounds really fun and sounds similar to your activity there, Giovanna. All right, so that was, if you like, the biggest part of our 3 parts, and we're going to move now to the next part, and the next 2 parts are smaller. So we've talked about skills and strategies for learning. Now we're going to talk a bit about taking control of learning, and I'm going to suggest 4 ways that we can help children to do this. Now, I mentioned objective cards before, and maybe you're using a book like Pippa and Pop where you have your unit objective, your topic cards for each unit, and like the cards that I showed you before, the family card and the animals card, for example. And this can be a nice way to show a visual timetable for the day. So maybe you show them the topic that they're going to be learning about, or maybe you have special visuals for focusing on skills. Maybe you have a listening card, or maybe there's a story time card or a working together card. So there's a focus for class on that day. And again, let me know if you use these already or you do something different. How does that link to learning to learn? Well, this is about setting goals and helping children understand, starting to understand that we are focusing on special things on special days. And it's also a way to review progress as well, isn't it, at the end of the class, where we're remembering what we did, or maybe remembering the animal words that we learned to do with that topic. Glad you like that idea, Giovanna. All right, next activity. I said there were 4 in this section, and this one is helping children to get organised. So I wonder how many of your students look like this little girl here. So after you've given a course book task before children start, so again, we're learning about this self-control. The task here is to get learners to think about what do they need for this task. So what do they need? Any equipment for this? Do they need a pencil for this task? Do they need to get their book out? Do they need to find their stickers? Are we going to need scissors, for example, for a craft activity? And then again, depending on their age, maybe you get children to go and get their own things, or maybe it's something that you hand out, or maybe you have a helper that helps you with this stage. But then children get ready and we have a check they've got everything before they start. All right, so do you do something similar? Do you get children thinking about what do we need? What materials do we need? There's a nice way of recycling vocabulary about classroom objects as well. And how does it link to learning to learn? Well, this is all about starting to manage the learning environment. Remember, we're starting right from the beginning here. Okay, idea number 3 here is traffic lights. And I wonder if anyone uses traffic light systems in their class. If you do, let me know. What do the colours mean if you use them? If you don't use them, what do you think they could mean? And as you are thinking and hopefully typing what you do already with traffic lights, or what you could do, very simple. You could get pieces of card, a red circle, a yellow circle, a green circle, and every child has their own set. And then depending on which light they're showing you at different parts of the class, it helps them to communicate with you. So do you do this? You do, Marilla. Tell us, what do your traffic lights mean? Well, they could mean rules, Giovanna, and I think some teachers do use them like that. But yeah, I'm interested in how that might work. I know some teachers use them for classroom management. So sometimes the teacher shows up, holds up a traffic light, and that means go, and yellow means stopping soon, and red means stop and listen, for example. So it's a way to get attention. My idea here is connecting it to learning to learn. So if children need help or they have a question, they can either hold up their red light, or whichever colour you choose, or they can put it on top on their desks. They've always got those colours there, and they just put the red one on top if they need some help. And then when they're okay, they put the green one on top. So it's another kind of routine to learn. And maybe you just start with 2 colours and you move into 3. It doesn't matter. You decide what the traffic lights mean and how they help you and the children to communicate. And there's some lovely ideas here. So different codes for activities is a nice one, Giovanna. Yeah, so it's like a visual. It can be, it could be stop, attention, and work at the end of it. That's lovely, lovely idea. All right, other ideas, I would love to see those in the chat. Keep them coming. and obviously choose what's going to work best with the age that you're teaching. So we need to be realistic about this. When we're talking about evaluating learning, it's how are we feeling now? Are we feeling okay or not okay? We need some help. And there we go, Mirella, identifying their mood. That's right. You could use smiley faces instead of that. Maybe you already do that instead of traffic lights. Okay, and idea number 4 in this part. Let's move to that one. This is favorite pages. So this is something you can do at the end of a section of a book or at the end of a topic if you're not using a course book. Oh no, you do need a course book for this one. Sorry. So when they've got to the end of a unit, get children to look back at what they've done. How often do we do this? Actually get them to turn the pages the other way and look at the activities and things they did, and get them to put either a sticker or a post-it on their favourite pages. And that's something that they can then show parents at home, or you can have a conversation about, oh right, so who liked this one? Who else liked this activity? And it's a way for children to give you some feedback, isn't it, in a very simple way. And when you get to the end of a couple of units or even the end of a course book, they can look back and review their favourite activities now, maybe choose an overall favourite. So how does this link to learning to learn? Well, it's about helping children to reflect, looking back, beginning to look back, and making some choices and talking about feelings about learning as well. So that links really nicely actually into our third and final section, which is about reflecting on and evaluating learning. And I wanted to think in this part about stories, first of all, and how we review stories with children. So I've just taken an example here of a duck who wanted to make friends, and none of the other animals would play with the duck until one day they met the goose, played together and splashed together and made friends. Happy ending. So how do you review stories with your students? Do you use any of these activities? Let me know. You can type the numbers that you use in the chat, or type whatever else you do if it's another activity. So what do you remember from the story? So I might ask, what did Duck want? And who was Duck's friend? And was Duck happy or sad at the end? Number 3, I just want to explain as well, is maybe you do this, you pretend that you forgot the story or you make mistakes and say, we did a story, didn't we, about a cat? And the children hopefully notice and go, no, it's a duck. And you go, oh yeah, I forgot, yes, a duck. And the duck was very happy because they had lots of friends, and children can correct you as you go. So how about you? Let's see, lots of people use drawing. Yeah, and Samara, you change some of the details in the story, and acting out is popular too. Nice. Let's think as well about how we review at the end of the lesson. Now, we've talked about this a little bit already. Maybe you use your puppet for this. I think some of you mentioned this before. But how do you review learning at the end of the lesson? So let me know in the chat. Do you use your puppet? Do you have games that you play? Do you use visuals? What do you do at the end? I think someone also said earlier they play a game with some of the new words, which is a really nice way to end the class. What about you? What do you do? Leanne, you like games, and I'm sure your students do as well. Really nice. Maybe you could share your favorite games. Okay, yeah, absolutely. Games to remember, games to review, games to practice. Kahoot. Nice. And images to review the story. Ah, yes, why not? Games and apps. Yeah, lovely. Digital games, a quiz game and a slide. Thank you, Tainat. Lovely. So again, here are some suggestions from me. Maybe these are similar or different. And I'm going to suggest here, as in other places, that we're using the children's native language here to talk about learning and to get this concept across. We can use our objective cards, our visual timetable. We can use pictures, as you said, puppets, sing the song again, play a game, remember the story, and show children what they've done. So if they've created things, celebrate that and point to the things that they made in that class, help them to feel proud. And again, it's a lovely opportunity, isn't it, to foster that growth mindset. And here is one way to review learning, but through imaginative play. So a bit like the dressing up that we did before. This activity is to review. Children have been learning about different rooms in the house and what we do in different rooms. So the activity here is that you have flashcards to show the different rooms in the house around the corners of the classroom. And you say to children, okay, go to a room, and what do you do in that room? So children can go to the bedroom corner and then pretend to sleep, or they can go to the bathroom corner and pretend to brush their teeth, or whatever. And again, that's free play, imaginative play, but with this little purpose of reviewing this vocabulary. So again, that could be something, and I can see you could adapt that as well, couldn't you, for different types of vocabulary, maybe different jobs, and get children to go and act out being that particular job. And here's the link to learning how to learn, so making connections, showing evidence of learning. And we talked about end of lesson reviews. Let's think about end of topic and end of unit reviews. Now, we talked about looking back and using stickers. I wonder what you do at the end of a unit, and I'm going to show some things on the screen. Let me know if you do these things. So unit objectives again, I've mentioned that a couple of times. Do you ever get children to close their eyes and remember and take them back to the beginning several weeks ago? Do you remember the first time you met Pippa the puppet, and what happened, and what was the song, and we did a story, and there was a duck in the story, and who can remember, and guide children through that memory journey themselves. You can also use this as a celebration at the end of a unit. So again, looking at work around the classroom, or looking at a video together if you filmed them working together, providing that's okay within your classroom and parents have given permission, or maybe looking at photos of things they've done throughout the unit, again with permission from parents for young children's images. And also reminding children here how, and asking them, how do you feel now? So how did you like that? And again, getting them to express themselves about giving opinions about their learning. And then we can do also at the end of a unit is to look forward and think about what's next and get excited about that. Now I just want to show you a couple of things from Coursebooks review activities that you could do yourself easily. So the one on the left here is reviewing food. So children get to draw their favourite foods. And there's opportunity here to review colours as well, as they're busy drawing and colouring and asking children questions about what they're drawing. And then on the one on the right is reviewing some topic vocabulary, and children are listening and finding the things in the pictures. And maybe you can notice that the topics here are linked to what I talked about before. So we've got animals, we've got toys, people, and so on. And this is our last example from the book. So again, I really like this because I think this shows children progressing from one year to the next. So here we are helping them to review vocabulary. And here they point, they say the words. So can they remember these words, and then colour in the smiley face if they can? All right, and then they get their sticker. to say well done. And then a couple of years down the line, so this is level 3 of the book, you can see how they've progressed. So this time they're choosing, like you were mentioning smiley faces before, they're choosing how they feel now. So, oh no, I couldn't remember that word. Oh dear, I'll put a sad face there. Or, oh yes, I remember now you gave me the first letter, you did a sounds like, and I remembered when someone else said it. So I'm doing a little smiley face there. So I really like this progression and how children can really develop these skills, because this is what we said right at the beginning, isn't it? They're starting here right from the beginning, and they'll be building on these learning to learn skills as they move through primary and school, and then later in life too. All right, I think it's time to quickly review. And I know there are questions, so we've got some time for those in a moment. But first of all, we have looked at 3 parts of learning to learn today, and we've looked at activities that go with each part. So I'm going to show this on the screen now, and again, to remind you, I've taken this from the Life Competencies Framework, so you know where this structure comes from. This is built into the Cambridge books if you are using Cambridge books. But can you remember what these 3 sections were? So I've helped you. I've given you most of it. There's just some missing words. Can you guess them? You can look on the right if you want. You'll remember some of the things that we've covered. We've talked about setting goals. We've talked about managing the learning environment, strategies for learning, keeping track of progress, for example. All right, so what are these missing words? We've got S. I might have said that one by accident. And C and E. You don't have to type them all at once. You can just do one of them. Let's see them in the chat. Oh, Fernanda has got them all at once. I think you've got them all there. Well done. If I could give you a prize, Fernanda, I would. That's it. Well done. Okay, so strategies for learning, taking control and starting to evaluate learning. And as a little reminder, because we've looked at so many things today, I'm just going to show you on a screen now some of the key ideas and approaches that we looked at. So strategies. And then coming up in orange are the activities that we looked at. So perhaps looking at these titles will help you to remember some of the activities that we looked at. Maybe there's one there that you liked the idea of. Maybe you're going to try that memory game, or you're going to think about traffic lights, I don't know, or play the human piano. Maybe you've not decided. If you have, let me know in the chat, what are you going to try out? And again, if you want to take a screenshot now, so this can help you remember. Enrique is going to try the puppet. Okay, have fun with that. I'm sure the children will like it. Okay, disappearing now, going to one of the last slides. Okay, and I wanted to remind you that I asked you to employ some learning strategies at the beginning. Did you? They were optional, but did you participate? Were you thinking about your own classes? I know that you were, because you were writing in the chat and telling me. And then what are you going to do next? So are you going to think more about something or try something new out? And I can see Margaret is going to look at traffic lights, and Carolina is going to play the piano game. Oh, right, somebody's been using screenshots. Okay, and Margaret, that's fantastic. And if you want to know more about learning to learn skills, if you are interested in more about these life competencies, or you want to go back and think about mindsets and read or watch Carol Dweck, there are some links there that you can follow. So again, you can take that screenshot if you want to. All right, so that brings us to almost the end, Katja. We've got 5 minutes for questions. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we do. Thank you
Okay.
so much, Claire, for this lovely and interesting presentation with so many practical ideas for teachers. I loved the human piano.
Oh, yeah, me too. So much.
All right, so we have a question from Giovanna Santos. She would like you to expand a little bit more on the listening cards. Her question
Ah,
is how to use listening cards.
yes, thank you, Giovanna. And I think that's where I was talking about our visual timetable. Now, if you go on the internet and just search for visual timetable, you'll come up with lots and lots of flashcards to show or describe things that children do in class. So you can get flashcards for the different skills, listening, it might be a pair of headphones, speaking, writing, there might be a play flashcard, an art flashcard. So this is what I meant by those. And you can use this to help to focus children on what they are learning and developing, or what's the focus today. So today we're really going to be doing lots of listening. We're going to practice listening carefully. When we listen to a story, we're going to try to listen to each other, for example. So that's what I mean by that. So you might have just one card for your class, or you might have a couple, and you pop it up on the board so that children know what we're doing, and then you can use that at the end and say, what did we do today? Did you do some good listening? And have some examples of that. So this is what I meant by the listening cards.
I see. Great, Claire. Well, we would like to thank you very much. It's already late in the evening for you, but we enjoyed a lot. I'm sure participants enjoyed a lot the presentation. We have placed the link to the feedback form, the one to download your certificate, and don't forget that the recording will be uploaded very soon in Cambridge YouTube channel. Tomorrow, we have another webinar. Hope to see you there at 3 again. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks a lot for your participation. And Claire, thank you so much again.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Take care.